Wow. You guys pulled through the other night for our wounded veteran in a way that I could not have even imagined. I cannot express to you all how grateful I am. I'm grateful for every dollar shared. I'm grateful for all the words of encouragement left in the comments section on that last video. He has been reading your comments and plans to read all of them. And I'm grateful that I was given the opportunity to be a small part of this man's blessing. You all contributed more than $10,000 in the first 12 hours. You guys are amazing. I've been in contact with the guy throughout all of this, and he told me that the night all this was happening, he and his wife just sat there on the couch staring at their screen, just crying in amazement. And the donations just kept flooding in. They were just sitting there watching their biggest worry get smashed into the dirt. He's going to be able to fix so much with the way you guys all stepped up to the plate. To everyone who has helped in this endeavor, I cannot thank you enough. This has been the single greatest part of my entire YouTube journey. Being able to help someone reach the people in a time of need like this has been a tremendous blessing to me. But all of the credit goes to you all. From the very bottom of my heart, I thank you all. Now, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
What I want you to pay attention to is the size of the capsule when Jeff Bezos falls or trips when he's running around the outside of it, which you will see right here. Okay, now watch to your right. He's going to come running around the capsule and trips and falls right here. Okay, now what I really want you to pay attention to is the size of the capsule compared to the people standing around it and compared to him. Look at the size of that capsule right there. Now look at the size of the capsule when he's doing the rescue. Look how little bitty that thing is compared to the one that he's running around right here and trips and falls. Two total different size capsules. Now, if you don't comprehend what I'm trying to show you here when I say two different sizes, look at the size of the capsule compared to the people standing on the ground beside it. Not even half of their bodies are as high as even half of the window. Now, look at this shot right here. This lady is standing flat-footed on the ground and comes up almost to the top of the window.
This looks like it's going to be the most embarrassing stain on the legacy of Jeff Bezos. And I'm pretty sure that title has some heavy competition already. The guy isn't exactly known for his honesty and integrity, but this has become so obvious at this point. If I were this guy, I'd be ashamed to show my face in public anymore.
So Ross Coulthart's come out and said that he knows that Lockheed Martin is in fact making the Tic Tac UFO.
I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Okay.
The Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. Why are we being lied to? This is the issue. Why is the United States government now participating at White House executive level in collusion with the national security state to keep secret the fact that they've made these advances?
So there's a few things that don't really sit right with me. Obviously, we had that thing that was leaked a little while ago where there was someone claiming that the Tic Tac was made by BAA, okay? But then we need to look at the whole sort of situation between the military personnel in relation to sightings of the Tic Tac UFO, like the Nimitz situation. If you wanted to keep this technology secret, should you say, why would you fly this sort of technology in and around aircraft carriers, fighter jets, pilots, to kind of gain their attention and kind of make people kind of freak out a little bit? So is this kind of a show of power from Lockheed Martin to the military industrial complex to show like, actually, hang on a minute, you guys don't hold all the reins here, we do? Or is there something more going on in the background? And if Lockheed Martin have this technology, and this is proven to be absolutely true, how did they get it? Where has it come from? And if this then comes out to the public sphere, shouldn't everyone in the public, okay, that doesn't believe in the kind of UFO phenomena, ask questions? Why do they have this technology? How do they have this technology to make things jump from 0 to 10 million miles per hour in a second, basically? Like, I don't know, man. We need to start picking this apart at mass, bro.
If he's saying he knows this definitively, is he going to release the evidence that shows that he knows this definitively? Maybe that could be enough to get the public in an uproar about being lied to. I doubt it, but maybe. At the very least, this is somewhat confirmation of where all that money went that went missing, and I'm referring to the reasoning behind why a certain terrorist attack took place. Lies and more lies. Using our money to build themselves fancy new toys and gadgets that we aren't even allowed to know about. It's ridiculous. Hey, don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com.
You did not know that the Truman Show is an allegory for Freemasonry and ancient Egyptian initiations. In the beginning of the movie, naive Truman witnesses a canister fall into his path. Notice, as he picks it up, the shot positions him in between two pillars. These pillars represent the towers of Masonry, Yakin and Boaz, the two pillars at the steps of Solomon's temple, also represented in 9/11 as the Twin Towers, which was a Masonic ritual. The canister that falls is labeled Sirius, S-I-R-I-U-S. In ancient Egypt, Sirius was worshipped as the dog star, also represented as the blazing star in Masonry. To initiates, Sirius represents a higher form of knowledge than the sun. In the imagery of Solomon's temple, the blazing star Sirius is in between the twin pillars Yakin and Boaz. After this, Truman begins to question his reality. What's going on? Why is the sky red? At the end of the film, Truman liberates himself. He walks up the stairs to his exit, which coincidentally takes place in a dome, otherwise known in the material world and Masonry as the firmament. And similar to the path of Masonic enlightenment, he climbs up the steps. His godlike overseer, Christoph, or Christ of, represents the Gnostic demiurge, who falsely claims to be God, but is a tyrant, trapping souls in a material matrix. At least this is what high-level, serpent-worshipping, Saturn-worshipping Masons not necessarily believe in, but follow. Before I get you moron Masons commenting, saying, oh, Masonry is it's a path of bettering yourself. We're just a fraternity. We just like to drink and hang out. We don't discuss religion or politics. That's the two things you can't bring up in a lodge. We just handshake by touching each other's knuckles. Before you comment, we are talking about high level 33rd degree and up, going all the way up to the 97th degree in Memphis, Misraim. We are not talking about you amateur hour Masons, the guys that don't even know their own craft, the guys that are purposefully deceived in the Blue Lodges. We're not talking about you.
Was he just being facetious when he said all the way up to the 97th degree? Because as far as I could find, they only go up to the 33rd degree, which they claim is an honorary degree that you get for exceptional service, but that it doesn't hold any special significance outside of that. But I don't buy that at all. I think that is where all the big dogs are, the ones who actually know what it's all about. Just look how many famous figures have been a 33rd degree Mason. I do think, though, that you could probably make it pretty close to the top without really knowing what you're even involved in. About 75% of the Masons never even get outside of the first 3 degrees. They probably have no clue how evil this organization is. Just a bunch of people at the bottom helping the guys at the top give it the appearance that it's just a boys club.
You know, I think cell phones might affect our brainwaves more than anything else around us. Now, first thing you gotta know is the electromagnetic field is everywhere. And secondly, our brains are very sensitive to EMF and sound in general. So much so that the CIA spent $16 million researching this back in the 80s to see how much can we bend people's minds via frequency. And the fact that after listening to a phone call for 15 minutes, you can quite literally see it through thermal imaging leads me to believe it's probably bad for you. See, you can imagine the inside of our heads look like this, and there's electricity pulsing through all of these, and when most of these sync up, you get a brain wave. You know, you gotta think it's a ton of electricity at once makes a large wave. Your phone, do you see what I'm talking about? Now let me tell you a story about this. I was in Dallas showing off my invention Septisync, something that also uses sound frequencies to heavily mess with your brain waves. Now, I would sit people down into these chairs, throw on headphones, and they would listen to Septisync. They'd fall asleep over the course of 5 or 6 minutes. I'd wake them up and be like, how was it? And they're like, I can't believe that made me sleep. Like, I'm in a crowded room and I just I thought I was asleep in my own bed. It wigs people out. Now, my booth neighbor is a big company in like the biohacking space called Lila Quantum. They were literally right on the other side of that curtain. Now, like I said, they're a big company, and the CEO comes over. He's like, everyone keeps telling me to come check out your booth and saying it's just trippy as hell. He's like, let me give it a shot. He sits down, listens to it. Literally nothing happened. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the? Like, this is the worst guy this could have happened to. He's got a big company, didn't even work at all. I was scared. So he comes back by later and shows me this little necklace that he sells and says, I was wearing this and this blocks out frequency. Can I try your product again without wearing it? And I'm like, sure, you know, that's not gonna do anything. He listens to it and it worked. I had to literally wake him up out of the chair. First off, I don't know what's in those. I'm pretty sure it works. And he could tell I didn't think his company worked until I saw that, because he's like, yep, it definitely works, doesn't it? So that's weird. There's no scientific anything behind that I've been able to see, but I've seen results. I don't know. Would I buy one? Probably not. Do I believe it works? Yeah, probably does. But that being said, just whatever's in that little necklace started messing with septicink. Sounds going straight to your ears, straight to the brain. Our bodies, everything in this world is so sensitive to EMF. A literal necklace can stop something like septicink, which works on mostly everybody. And maybe cell phones are responsible for a lot of the reasons people are so depressed, or they're spending all their time watching my videos. That could play a part too.
Even though he didn't come right out and say that he's trying to direct people to this company's website to get them to buy something, that whole clip there kind of come across like an advertisement for a product. I just thought this was cool because I've tried his SeptaSync thing before and it absolutely works. If these things can cancel out the frequency from something being pumped directly into your ear canals from something that strong as SeptaSync, that is certainly something I want to look into. However, as much new age mumbo jumbo talk as there is on this company's website, talking about working with natural healers and showing photos of people holding their hands over somebody's body, and considering the price of this stuff, I think I'm going to pass until I can hear it from someone who's not posting their 5-star review directly on the company's website. I think we all know not to trust that stuff. Have any of you used any of this stuff before? If you have, how well did it work for you, and is it a product that you would actually suggest to someone? Because I'm certainly interested in blocking unnecessary frequencies from messing up my brain. But $145 for a little tube on a chain with some beads in it makes me feel like I'm on goop.com.
If you've ever heard of or believe in the Anunnaki theory, then you fell for a Rockefeller psyop. If you're not familiar with it, it's the idea that some aliens came here 400,000 years ago, genetically engineered apes into humans to mine gold, and then left because, I don't know. Not only is this theory baloney, it's actually an orchestrated psyop intended to misdirect the conspiracy community. Now, how do I know that's the case? Thank you for asking. The theory first came from Zecharia Sitchin in his book, The 12th Planet, based on his own translation of ancient Sumerian texts. Aside from the fact that Sitchin was funded by Lawrence Rockefeller and operated his office out of Rockefeller Plaza and was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, I have other reasons to believe Sitchin's theory is fraudulent, if you will. Sitchin claimed that the word Shamu or Shamu in Sumerian means rockets or fiery sky chariots, when in reality, it's just a dead whale at SeaWorld. No, really, in linguistic reality, which I'm learning has nothing to do with Ratatouille, it actually means heaven or sky. Similarly, Sitchin interpreted the Sumerian word dinger or dinger as astronaut or extraterrestrial, when in reality it means God or deity. Now, why do I think this theory is a purposely orchestrated vessel of misinformation? Well, I've already explained Sitchin's relation with Rockefeller, but let's look a bit deeper. In the 80s and 90s, Lawrence Rockefeller made various moves and financial decisions to inorganically fuel alien and UFO discourse in conspiracy communities. You've been conditioned to believe that the government is hiding aliens from you, when in fact it's actually the opposite. The list goes on of Rockefeller's funding for further UFO discussion. He funded the UFO Disclosure Initiative with the Clinton administration. Another organization, known as the Fund for UFO Research, was donated to by Rockefeller. Zecharia Sitchin wasn't the only researcher that Rockefeller funded either. John Mack and Colin Andrews were both sponsored by Rockefeller to write books on alien abductions and crop circles. Both made multiple appearances on Coast to Coast AM, which is a globalist-controlled platform specifically designed to funnel misinformation to its conspiracy-minded following, similar to Alex Jones's platform or Joe Rogan, but who am I? Project Starlight, which aimed to convince global leaders of the realities of UFOs, was also funded by Lawrence Rockefeller. He also funded the creation of the UFO briefing document, which was overseen by his associate Marie Galbraith. The document was meant to present evidence of UFO phenomena to government officials and scientists. Rockefeller, as well as a society known as the Aviary Group, whose members include ex-US Air Force, CIA, and fake whistleblowers like Bob Lazar, have fueled 99% of alien discourse and speculation. They've worked very hard to convince the public that aliens are a reality, from the Majestic 12 documents, Area 51 conspiracy theories. I mean, what is this, amateur hour? Come on. The infamous Roswell incident, as well as the very first UFO abduction, which included Betty and Barney Hill, friends of Major James McDonald, an Air Force and CIA intelligence operative. Not only does the Anunnaki theory attempt to legitimize the idea of extraterrestrials even more, it also throws conspiracy-minded individuals in the search of real alternative history off the scent of truth and hides the true origin of our species.
This is what all the evidence is pointing to. One great big deception. And the more you dig into this stuff, the more you dig into it all, the more you're going to hit dead ends. Everything always ends with an unreliable eyewitness account or someone's translation of ancient text that's highly debatable at best. No matter what thread you're pulling on, you always seem to come up empty-handed. And now we find out that all of this was funded by the same people who have pretty much corrupted every aspect of our entire society, our school system, our medical industry, our food supply system, everything. I'm completely convinced at this point that there is no such thing as aliens. And I will admit, I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I thought I was uncovering alternative history until I discovered the truth that our actual history is in a book that almost everyone has owned a copy of at some point in their life. It's just that most people are not reading it. And instead of seeking out true knowledge, people are reading all this propaganda and thinking they're gaining knowledge, when in reality, they're just assisting the enemy with their own deception. I'm just glad that I finally woke up and found the truth. Now, I'm not going to be in a panic with everyone else whenever they finally launch this false flag alien invasion. Don't buy into it, everybody. It is all lies. All of it.
Okay, this can't be real. How was this not worldwide breaking news when it came out? A galactic federation of aliens exists. President Trump and the Israeli government know about it, and we're working with them on Mars. This was an official news release back in 2020, revealed in an interview by a former Israeli space security chief, where he admitted that our governments are in contact with extraterrestrials from a, quote, galactic federation, and that they've specifically asked their points of human contact to not reveal that they're here, that humanity is not yet ready for full-on public disclosure. According to him, they have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are. So it seems like they're waiting for our space exploration technology to get better, at which point they'll welcome us into their galactic federation. The supposed whistleblower's name is Haim Ashed, who spent 30 years as head of Israel's Defense Ministry's space security program, a highly respected professor and well-decorated retired general. This guy ain't no kook. He also said there is an agreement between the US government and the aliens. They, the aliens, signed a contract with us to do experiments here on Earth. So they're using our planet as a petri dish for what I assume is biological experimentation on us. They even have a few other cooperation agreements signed between our species, including an underground base in the depths of Mars, where there are American astronauts and alien representatives working together. All according to this guy, take it up with him. Apparently, Trump is well aware of this galactic federation and was on the verge of revealing it to the public just a few years ago, but was specifically asked not to in order to prevent mass hysteria, which I think we can all agree would happen if news like this came out. White House and Pentagon officials declined to comment on this. Kinda sketch. Ashed decided to speak out about this in 2020 as he claimed people became more receptive of extraterrestrials and UFOs by then, which, yeah, 2020 was the year the Pentagon released their confirmed UFO videos for the first time in history, letting us know they have no idea what the they're dealing with, which was also just 1 year after Trump officially established the United States Space Force in 2019. Maybe that was his way of hinting at something he couldn't talk about. But of course, the mainstream consensus around this guy is that he's just old and senile with nothing to lose, around 88 years old at the time his claims were made, and that he was just promoting his book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon, where he makes claims that include stories of how aliens prevented nuclear disasters. But this man isn't your typical conspiracy whack job like me. He is a high-ranking and well-decorated military space intelligence official with master's and doctorate degrees in aeronautical engineering. Did he just decide to tarnish his lifelong reputation by making up something like this to sell a book, or are we about to join a real-life galactic federation?
In my opinion, this guy is probably not that worried about tarnishing his reputation. He's part of a bigger psyop, and they have an agenda to push. All he's doing is following orders and helping to spread propaganda. I really wish that we still had freedom of speech in this country, or at least freedom of speech on this platform, so I could tell y'all what I really think about this highly decorated Israeli military official. I'll just say this: trust, I give them none. Just start digging into pretty much any story, any major story that is an obvious attempt at control, and look who's behind the wheel of it. I'm not going to give you that answer. It's a lot better if you figure it out on your own. It's a hard pill to swallow at first. There are certain things that if people just came out and tell you what's actually happening, you would just turn away from it and not even investigate it, because you would feel like such a bad person for even looking into it, because they've done such a good job at conditioning people to think that they're not allowed to think certain things. But there is almost always the same government behind this stuff. And yeah, our government is usually involved in it, but I think we're just a tool in their handbag. I will say this though, the same people are trying to build the third temple and usher in the Antichrist. Those are the same ones who are banking on all of us believing all this stuff. They want our eyes closed until the very end. Do not buy it.
So this is the beginning of a big story that's coming out right now. 3 Louisiana police chiefs, a sheriff's marshal, and even a Subway shop owner just got slapped with a 62-count federal indictment for bribery, mail fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, immigration fraud, all of it. Here's what they were doing. They faked armed robbery reports, hundreds of them, and then they sold them for $5,000 each to immigrants trying to qualify for U visas. That's a program meant to protect actual victims of violent crimes who help out law enforcement. Instead, these cops were running a racket selling fake victimhood to anybody with cash. And this wasn't some side hustle. They used official police letterhead, falsified crime reports, and mailed them to federal agencies, hence the mail fraud. It went on for nearly a decade, mostly in Oakdale, Glenmore, and Forest Hill. Real small towns, real big corruption. Now, the Subway owner, who goes by Layla Patel, he allegedly helped connect people to the officers and coordinated payments. And then meanwhile, the officers like Oakdale's chief and Glenmore's former chief were approving and signing off on fake reports. So yeah, while immigrants waiting in line get grilled, these cops were pocketing tens of thousands of dollars by abusing the very system designed to protect people. And if you're wondering how this went on for so long, so are federal investigators, because it wasn't just a betrayal of the badge, it was a factory of fraud hiding behind it.
The first thing that I did was look to see if there was some connection between that Patel guy and the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. Just an unfortunate last name, I suppose. I couldn't find a connection there. I will say, though, it is pretty nice to see some justice being handed out for these people who are scamming our system. It looks like pretty much every government official to a degree was figuring out some way or another to profit off of all these illegal immigrants flooding into our country. And everyone's been wondering why it seems like law enforcement keeps turning a blind eye and not actually arresting and deporting all these people who literally have no right to be here. I'm betting this was probably going on in every state to some degree. It's not realistic to make the assumption that these guys are the only ones who thought about this scheme. Hopefully they're only the first of many to be caught and prosecuted if there are other people trying to pull this off. I think there needs to be much stricter punishments for anyone who's involved in this kind of activity while they're walking around with a badge on their chest. And then maybe we would be much more more likely to only get men with integrity filling these positions.
Not enough people are aware that Netflix is a vessel for mass psychological warfare. The co-founder of Netflix, Mark Randolph, is the great-nephew of Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays is known as the father of propaganda, and Edward Bernays himself is the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who's known as the father of psychoanalysis. So Bernays took his understanding of Freudian psychology and applied it to mass communication and manipulation of the collective unconscious. He worked for both the CIA and the military in the realm of psychological operations. And in 1928, Bernays wrote a book titled Propaganda. 5 years prior, he wrote a book titled Crystallizing Public Opinion. The cherry on top, though, is Bernays' involvement with the Vatican. Cardinal Francis Spellman, the Archbishop of New York, sent Bernays to the Vatican to learn and study the Jesuits' methods of mental programming. This visit took place in 1957. The same year, the papal bull Miranda Porcis was issued, which publicly commands all Roman Catholics to seize as much control of media as possible, whether that be through television, movies, or news outlets. For a little more context on Jesuit involvement in programming through entertainment, the Hollywood Production Code was written by Jesuit priest Daniel Lord S.J., and the Jesuits have been producing theatrical work since the time of their inception, and even helped write the works of Shakespeare through Sir Toby Matthew, who was a close friend of Francis Bacon and the Rosicrucians. So we know these guys have an affinity for programming through media. Ignoring the connection between their founder and the father of propaganda, Edward Bernays, let's examine Netflix a little further. The wife of Mark Randolph and the former CEO of Netflix was Jesuit trained at 2 different private Jesuit institutions. Other Netflix executives are also Jesuit indoctrinated, while others like Suzanne Rice and Logan Jackson are Rhodes Scholars. The Cecil Rhodes Scholarship Program is to funnel the brightest young minds to Oxford and indoctrinate them into globalist alliance. It was stated by Cecil Rhodes at the time of his death in his will that he wanted to create a secret society that was modeled after the Jesuit order. Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. I'm going to make a video all about that. I actually posted one on another account that got taken down already. Most of you could probably pinpoint in your memory a show or a movie that you thought was a bit peculiar, programming to a degree, but the truth is 90% of them are. The most obvious being things like Leave the World Behind, Don't Look Up, Stranger Things, Marriage Story, The Two Popes, and even Big Mouth. And I'm sure you haven't forgotten about the movie that's borderline child entertainment, if you will. Cuties, it was called. That's my favorite one to go back and, rewatch, research for educational purposes. But yeah, Netflix, to no surprise for most of you, I'm sure, is a vessel of mass psychological manipulation, which is no different from the videos I'm making. Who can you trust these days?
Well, considering everything that he said in that video that I could actually look up, I could verify was true. I think listening to his propaganda is a lot better of an idea than listening to the propaganda that Netflix is putting out. I think it's pretty obvious that the Jesuits, or the members of the Society of Jesus, a Roman Catholic religious order founded in 1540, are just a group of evil men hiding under the name of the Savior in order to try to quell suspicion. Just look at the content they're putting out. They literally put money behind pushing every idea except for what the actual truth is. They ain't interested in spreading knowledge about Jesus. That's a fact. I'm kind of reaching the point that it feels like maybe I should just get rid of my television and just go back to playing board games for entertainment or something. I used to feel like it was really difficult to watch certain things without being influenced by the propaganda. But now I'm starting to see it's inescapable no matter what you're watching. We've been going through the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise over the past few days with our kids. We're planning on watching part 4 tonight, and I realized last night that I haven't seen or heard anything new about Johnny Depp since that Amber Heard trial. So I looked it up on IMDb to see if he had any future projects coming out. I was kind of hoping that he was going to be the star of the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie that they're supposedly working on now. But look at the description of the only movie that they say he's got planned for the future. He's literally playing the role of Satan, and they're trying to make him the good guy in the story based off of the movie's description, and they're trying to cast God as this evil deity, and in the movie's description, Satan has to convince God to spare the world. They are literally trying to cast Satan as the savior of humanity. These movies are getting out of control. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back soon with another one. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my merch store at barry-stepp.com. And don't forget to drop a photo of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But guys and gals, thank you once again for coming through in such a major way like you did the day before yesterday. That was absolutely amazing and completely unexpected. But I hope you all have a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one.